For more, let's bring in Texas Governor Greg Abbott. He attended a candlelight vigil last night, mourning the victims, bringing comfort to their families, just hours after that deadliest mass shooting in Texas state history. Governor, welcome under these very difficult circumstances. We appreciate your time. I want to start with the message that you delivered at this candlelight vigil and what you're being called upon as a message today to deliver.
Sure. Well, before the candlelight vigil, I spoke in a community center with the families of the victims, and that's when I had the opportunity to speak to them directly. And I got to tell you, it was a very heavy situation, but I kind of explained to them the different perspectives that we all face in life about facing unprecedented challenges that test our faith. This is a community of deep faith, and I pointed out ways in which we are all tested, and that those tests provide opportunities where God reaches out to us, and I urge them to reach back and grasp God's reach to them. And you could tell that it's exactly the kind of message these people wanted to hear, because it is such a religious community. And then we left that community center and went to the candlelight vigil, where the focal point was both on prayer, but also on unity and on love. We understand that what took place in this very small community was the face of evil itself. You could have had a backlash type response, but instead the response that we got was one of unification, one of love, one of leaning on God to provide healing and hope for the future of this community.
Well, Governor, you know, as you're talking, I'm feeling that depth of consoling that you have been giving. And I can imagine, too, people have a lot of questions because of the way that this went down and what we're learning about a domestic violence history that this man had with his family members.
Well, there's increasing information showing that he had domestic violence problems, so much so that it could have been the subject of the court-martial that he received in the United States military. And so there appeared to be a criminally documented record of his violence against his wife and maybe child also, as well as other incidences after he was released from the military. And so this was a very troubled person. Obviously, he had to be deranged to go into a church and execution style kill so many people, including that 18-month-old child and 77-year-old individual. This is horrific. And obviously, this is a person who had severe mental challenges to do something like this.
Governor, you know, we're at a point right now where we are seeing things happen in our nation. We are leaning on each other and there for each other. But there's a lot of talk about mental illness and about hate right now. And as I hear you in your spiritual healing words, I want to ask the question, what do we say to each other about this? Because we can't get political at this time. We got to figure something out.
We do. Part of that, I'd call it a two-step process. Part is putting this in context. And remember, even though we're facing these severe tragedies, whether it be what happened in Sutherland Springs or what happened in Las Vegas or what happened in New York last week or what happened in London early this year, we have acts of evil taking place, and because they are close in time to us right now, we think this is something heavy right now. But put this in the context of history. Look at what happened with Hitler during the horrific events during that era, and Mussolini, and go back in time before that to the earlier ages, the Middle Ages, when people committed horrific crimes. And if you go through the history of the Bible, there was evil that took place from early stages of the Bible to the post-New Testament. And so evil is something that has permeated this world, and that force of evil must be combated with the force of good that is offered up by God. And it's so heartwarming to see the people of this community turn to God, turn to hope, turn to the promise of good overcoming evil.
Yeah, and the fact that this started in a place of worship, you are feathering out, if you will, the lessons of what they were studying and what they believed at that church. We saw it in South Carolina. We unfortunately have been through something like this before, although each one is individual. I want to ask now about moving forward. And sometimes I know your office is tasked with answering the difficult questions because the nation wants to know what they can do and what the next hinge point is for their prayers. So what is the plan right now for supporting the families, the people who were left behind? Is there a timetable for events coming up?
Well, the most immediate timetable is to fully identify everybody who has been killed by this tragedy and make direct contact with the family members and then go through the consoling process and the assistive process. Another thing that is extremely important for everybody in this entire community, not just the family members of the victims, but literally everyone in this 300 or 400 town community, I think they all need to go through some form of counseling. There are heavy hearts and heavy burdens on the shoulders of all these people. And it's important that they be able to get this tragedy off of their chest and off of their shoulders. And so we are providing a large number of counselors to every single person in this community to help them work their way through this process. That's the most immediate need right now.
All right. Governor, before I let you go, I don't know if you're sitting where you can see it, but off to the left of the screen next to you and me, is that church. It's video, and I see the American flag in the foreground. There we go. There's our live picture. This is Sutherland Springs, Texas, outside that church where they suffered such great violence and heartache. And Governor, I want to give you the last word. I see that flag is flying at half-staff right now.
Well, both the United States flag that was ordered by President Trump and the state flag ordered by me are flying at half-staff because we are trying to send a message to the people of our state and the people of our nation, how we unite and come together in times of tragedy like this, and we stand united as one nation and one state in support of those who've suffered, and we send our prayers and support to all the families of the victim, and we will be by their side till the very end.
Well, sir, I heard you kind of school us a little bit, not just spirituality, but that talk about mental health. I'm hoping, as you are and many people are, that we'll continue to talk with one another and try to figure things out. Meanwhile, our prayers to Texas. Thank you, Governor Abbott of the great state of Texas.
Thank you, Harris.